Where is Mr. Eddie Hearn? Yes, there he is. Hello, Eddie. How are you?
Hello, I'm not in Manchester yet. I'll
Okay.
be there in the morning.
Sorry.
Good afternoon to you, Ariel.
It's great to see you. It's great to see you. Thanks so much for the time. And I like that. Innovation, differences. You did the face-to-face, live audience. Is this a sign of you guys changing those boring I've told you, the press conferences are no good.
I know. We've said it for a year or so, haven't we? That we just try and switch it up. I think sometimes the traditional press conference, I think every fight needs a press conference, but in the build-up, maybe try some different stuff. Me in the middle, these two guys just trying to extract a little bit of beef and narrative and conversation and just understanding about the two combatants, understanding about the fight, understanding of what's on the line and what they think. And yeah, it was good. It went well, had a great live crowd as well. And of course, now we get to the crunch time of we've just finished the public workout in Manchester, and then tomorrow the press conference, Friday the weigh-in. And a really good fight between these two, a very, very important fight for the 140-pound division.
I have long said, Eddie, that I think you're the best promoter in combat sports. I'm not just saying it because you're here. I'm not trying to glaze you, as the kids like to say. But I do feel like there's someone coming right behind you, hot on your heels, and that is Mr. Sam Jones. Had him on my DAZN show yesterday. I mean, this guy, I know he's a manager, but he is phenomenal. The gift of gab is tremendous. I feel like he's coming for your spot. I think he's going to be a promoter in the next 5 years. And do you agree, and are you worried about his presence?
I'm definitely not worried, but I do think that he is a very good talker. And, he speaks with passion. I think a lot of the time, I'm a salesman, I'm a marketeer, but really my ability to speak comes off my passion for boxing and my passion for the events and my excitement around the events. And Sam is a guy who has bundles of energy for boxing, very good manager as well, and obviously a big weekend for him. So, yeah, I think, being a promoter does, you do require more than just the gift of the gab, but certainly it helps. And, you need to be able to hold a floor. You need to be able to tell the story. And I think it's a bit of a dying breed. So if Mr. Jones wants to come and take over from me in a couple of years, I'm more than happy. I'll just swindle off somewhere and, chill out.
If Jack wins on Saturday, what are the chances we see Jack versus Teofimo Lopez this year?
I mean, this fight's for the WBO interim world title. There is a chance that the winner of this fight becomes champion. There's all kinds of talks about Teofimo Lopez and Richardson Hitchens and Alcatraz and all this kind of wild stuff. The reality is all the business will take place next week in Riyadh. That is, His Excellency doesn't really do a lot of deals not face-to-face. So next week is going to be a week of very little sleep, a tremendous fight card, and a lot of fights and a lot of deals getting made as well. And I think if we're going to make Teofimo against Richardson Hitchens in a unification, that fight will get made next week. And if we're going to do Jack Catterall, that fight may get next week. He has to beat Barboza first.
Yeah.
It's a very good fight, but the winner of this fight on Saturday will be in a golden position at 140 pounds.
What do you make of this Alcatraz stuff? He said it last week to ESPN. Now you see The Ring talk about it, I believe earlier today, saying that they're targeting Teofimo Lopez. Is that a real thing? Could that actually happen?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what I've done really well, considering my, weaknesses, I've done really well of keeping my mouth shut around His Excellency's plans, because normally I just spill the beans on everything. But this stuff is probably 3 months old, if I'm honest. The first time that we discussed this was around the Fury-Usyk fight, back in December. He showed me his plans of the kind of places that he would like to stage major fight cards. And I'm just sitting there, it's really difficult to explain. You're sitting there in his, you could call it a house. Other people may call it a state. And, you're just looking at these screens going, and then all of a sudden, it's not just like we could do Alcatraz, like this mad professor. It's we could do Alcatraz, and here's how it would look, and here's who we've spoken to, and this would happen, and this would happen. It's like, I can't tell you the levels around the madness. And when he first tells me this, I'm thinking he's just like, and then like many things he does, you start to actually look at the people behind it and who are involved with it, the research and development that's gone into the concept, and it can work. It's going to create a huge amount of noise, as is the May card with Haney and Garcia in Times Square or whatever it end up being. So it's wild times. And next week we will be flat out trying to make the most of a wonderful situation for boxing that is just seeing so many doors open for the sport and so many opportunities for fighters. And we're here for it in a small way, a big way, or whatever way you want.
I want to ask you about that card in a moment, but going back to you being a newsbreaker, last week it was all like, per Eddie Hearn, Jake Paul versus Canelo Alvarez is done. You were the guy who broke the news. It was unbelievable, and obviously we know what happened. Can I get now that it's done? Because if I'm being honest, I like to go on YouTube and you do like 8 interviews a day, it seems, with all these different outlets, but you haven't really done. I can't find one. I looked everywhere because maybe you're not in Manchester yet, about the aftermath of all of this. And so the way it all kind of played out with Canelo siding with Turkey and Jake not getting the fight and the 4-fight deal and then doing, the Cinco de Mayo fight in Riyadh. What is your take on how all this kind of shaked out?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, all I said in the interviews was I've heard that fight is agreed. And by the looks of things, it was, in a sense of moving forward and speaking to potential stakeholders and broadcasters. So I don't know. I mean, it's a wild turn of events, and I guess we'll never know the exact truth. But from the outside, it looks like Jake and Canelo were negotiating for a fight with a broadcaster. Originally, the plan was for Canelo Alvarez to fight Terence Crawford in September. And, my opinion, maybe His Excellency didn't want to stage a fight like Crawford against Canelo Alvarez after Canelo against Jake Paul. So maybe they had a conversation and said, look, I don't want to do that. And one of the problems with this is Canelo had to fight in May. He wasn't going to wait until September. So probably in Canelo's head, he's going, Jake Paul in May, Crawford in September. Sweet. What a great year. Mm-hmm. Cash the check. But maybe the Crawford fight disappeared. And then, His Excellency said, look, we'll give you the fight in May. And sort of mapped out a schedule, whether it's 2, 4 fights, whatever it is. And, I think that what His Excellency does very well is he does map out that roadmap for a fighter that you work with. So it's not just like, you'll fight in May. It's you'll fight in May. And if you win that, you'll go on and fight in October, November against this guy. And then if you win that, it's kind of like fantasy boxing where, it's like, Teofimo fights Hitchens. And then if the winner moves up, they fight Boots. And then, Haney fights, in May, and Garcia fights. And if they win, they fight each other. And it's just like, and I think fighters like that. They like a plan mapped out for them. And clearly, Canelo Alvarez liked the plan that was mapped out for him.
Knowing Canelo like you do you think he was sincere in his interest to fight Jake, or do you believe the other theory that was thrown out is that he just used Jake to get a better deal from Turkey?
Like, I don't want to stir anything up. I have to be honest. I think Canelo Alvarez was very much interested in fighting Jake Paul because he's all about the deal. Mm. And why would, not being funny, if you've achieved everything that Canelo Alvarez has achieved, he's got more legacy than you can eat. Right? You're going to get $100 million or thereabouts to fight Jake Paul. I mean, why wouldn't he? And I don't know how deep it was. I don't know what was signed, MORs, whatever. But ultimately, it fell through. But I would, by the sounds of things, that fight was on the brink.
Earlier today, Alexander Usyk was doing media, and he said he has 2 fights left, and he said that he's interested in fighting the winner of Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, and then there's 1 fight left. I know you don't rep him, but obviously you have a very famous heavyweight in your stable, among others. What would if it is in fact Dubois versus Parker, what do you think the last one is going to be? Because I also know that you've talked about Jayo Pataya moving up to heavyweight to fight him.
Yeah, look. Usyk's done it all, right? Undisputed at cruiserweight, undisputed at heavyweight. He's going to want a lot of money to fight, and I'm not sure what that fight looks like to deliver him the kind of money that he may need to fight again. You know, the Dubois Parker winner, of course, provides another undisputed fight. I love the Jai Opetaia fight, especially if he can become undisputed at cruiserweight, because the story is fantastic. I don't know. I kind of feel like Usyk's completed boxing, really. You know, and I don't think Usyk's a little bit different animal to Canelo. I mean, they all love money. Who doesn't? But he's a little bit different in my opinion. I don't think Usyk's sitting there now saying, "I'm just fighting for money. Give me the money, I'll fight anyone." I think he cares about the roadmap, and he cares about his legacy, and what a way to bow out. By all accounts, he's not going to. It's difficult to do that when you put in 2 back-to-back great performances. Actually, not 2, probably like 5 or, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 great performances. So he's not really showing any signs of old age or deterioration. You know, so I think the next step will be interesting. Listen, everyone's ruling out and writing off Joseph Parker. He's got a great shot in the fight.
Couldn't agree more. And I actually think he may pull off the upset. I think he's a slight underdog going into that fight. Speaking of the heavyweight division, you're always asked about AJ, and rightfully so. And it feels like we've gotten spoiled at this point because we get all the fights that we want. All the super fights are being made, except for the one that we've been talking about for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and that's AJ versus Fury. Have you and the team officially moved on from Fury? Are you? And I don't think AJ's the type of guy who's going to wait for anyone per se. And so I'm just wondering, I saw the Martin McCauley thing. You've already refuted it. Wilder, you've refuted it. So are you guys moving on at this point?
Yeah, I mean, when I say we refuted it, the media or Twitter or whatever it was reported that the McCauley fight was signed and agreed and the Wilder fight was signed and agreed. We've not had one conversation yet regarding Anthony's next opponent. Those conversations will probably begin after next week or in Riyadh. And we don't rule anybody out. I mean, really, when you talk about Tyson Fury, he would need to come out of retirement in the next couple of weeks to fight AJ next, because AJ is looking to fight himself twice this year. First one in the summer, June, whenever that's going to be, and then again at the end of the year. So if Fury doesn't come out of retirement soon, of course, that fight's not going to happen next. Is it McCauley? Is it Wilder? Is it Dubois Parker winner? Is it Catterall Zhang winner? I mean, it honestly could be anyone. He's just, the mojo's back. He's back in camp, and he will be watching the Riyadh fight, the World Heavyweight Championship. In his mind, he wants to fight Daniel Dubois. Don't forget, he's a fighter. You never get a fighter look at the Dubois rematch and go, "Oh, I won't be taking that." They always want a revenge defeat, and it comes with a World Heavyweight Championship. So the Wilder fight, I get it was definitely not a fight that we ever considered after his defeats. If he comes back with a win in March or whenever he fights, maybe. McCauley in Africa, I think, is an incredible event. We're well placed. AJ is still, to the disappointment of many people, AJ is still the money of the heavyweight division. And we can really fight whoever we want. But AJ will do what he's always done in his career, which is continue to take the biggest of challenges.
Hey there, sorry to interrupt. Just want to remind you, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it very much. And while you're at it, give us a thumbs up too. We've got live shows, interviews, clips, and a whole lot more going on this here channel. All right, now back to the show. True or false, AJ versus Fury happens in 2025?
False.
False. Damn it. I thought you were going to hit us with a true.
I know. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's for good. The problem is with Tyson is if he doesn't stay in the gym, if he doesn't keep ticking over, like all of a sudden, how the year goes. It's about to turn into March. March becomes June. June becomes September. The year's over for a fighter. And I don't think AJ is going to be fighting. I mean, how many fights has AJ got left? 2, 3? It's around that kind of number.
Okay, so I'll hit you with this one. True or false, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano 3 happens in 2025?
True.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to be honest, I'm not going to go into it too much because That's my big mouth. But, I've actually been having some pleasant conversations with Nikisa and MVP about a number of stuff. But, around this fight, it just makes so much sense. And, the opportunity bouncing off the platform and the numbers that it did last time, there is a very good chance that we see that fight next. I think fight fans deserve it. I think Amanda Serrano deserves it. She's given us two epic fights against Katie Taylor. Both fights were razor-thin decisions. Katie deserves everything. So the talks continue. We'll have to see. But I'm confident you see that next.
The state of this lawsuit between you and Jake, where does that stand?
Ongoing. But, the more you talk, the better things get.
Okay, so perhaps a resolution in sight?
I'd always prefer a resolution. You have to protect your name and you have to protect your company, especially when it's a family business that's been built over 40 years. But also at the same time, we would always rather move forward with people than have, roadblocks into doing potential fights and business. The one thing I'll always say about MVP and Matchroom and Nikisa and Jake is, despite that issue, we have continued to do business. And we've continued to provide opportunities for our fighters, particularly Katie and Amanda. Like in a boxing scenario, that lawsuit, that issue could have actually meant you don't even talk, let alone make a fight. So, I think that's a real plus point of the work that we do, and fair play to them as well. They've always kept the business cordial, and we've done good business together, and hopefully we can make another epic fight. Amanda and Katie could fight 10 times.
Yeah.
Every fight will be a fight of the year contender. So, that they are approaching the end. There's no doubt. But the quality is exactly the same.
There are reports that the NFL is going to stage a game next year at Croke Park, and I've seen some people say, like, Eddie and Matchroom deserve an apology. They deserve an explanation. How could they pick the NFL over Katie Taylor? When you see this, what is your reaction?
Well, it's not just how can you pick the NFL over Katie Taylor, it's the cost delta of the NFL versus a Katie Taylor event. But look, boxing has always been punished by I won't even say middle and upper class, because it's not. It's the government, and it continues to be punished, not just in Ireland but in England and Britain, because they don't understand the sport and they don't understand what the sport does, not just in the community but the reach that it has. People just look down their nose at boxing, and they continue to do it at that level, at government level. And, they look at an NFL event and they think, right, why don't we spend 15 times more to bring an American sport to Dublin, rather than one of our greatest ever athletes in an event that will go down as the greatest event in the history of Irish sport or boxing. But I get it as well. Look, you're talking about the NFL, does drive, huge tourism to the region, and everything is. There's a mathematical equation behind every government decision like that. But the reality is no one ever fights for boxing. And that's the same here. No one's out there in the government. Actually, there is an MP, Chris Webb, shout out to him, who's taking the conversation to Parliament, and we'll be there soon to back that up, to say, I think we need to look at this sport and actually what it does for the community and how it can tackle the negative mindset of the next generation, which is causing our country a huge amount of problems with gang crime and knife crime and violence. And they just don't get it. And sometimes, people will look down their nose at the sport, and clearly they fancied the old American NFL instead of one of their own.
I did hear the GAA say that she's not going to fight there in 2025 and accused you of, quote, megaphone diplomacy. Did you hear this?
Yeah, I mean, they're actually probably just not happy that I spoke out and told the truth. And the truth is, to hire Croke Park, they want twice as much money than to hire Wembley Stadium, the National Stadium in London. When, as well, it's for one of their own. They're absolute heroes. So we were never asking for funding or for government help. We were just asking the stadium to have a price point alongside the National Stadium in London, of Wembley Stadium, where we've staged many and many a fight. But you can't have conversations with these people because they don't want boxing. They look down their nose at the sport, as I said. Oh, we don't want boxing at Croke Park. Oh, really? Okay. Well, you're talking about the greatest ever, in my opinion, Irish athlete, sportswoman, who deserves this more than anyone. One of the purest souls, who epitomizes the spirit of her country. But it's okay, because we can do an NFL event instead.
I'll ask you just a couple more and let you go. I love going around the horn with you here. We had Sandy Ryan and Michaela Mayer on the program last week. Tremendous stuff. And I'm still trying to figure out the mystery behind the paint. Sandy's your fighter. This is going down March 29th. Who did this? She wants to move on. But come on, this is like straight out of a movie. A can of paint being thrown at your fighter as she's walking out. Who, in your opinion, did this to her?
I can't, I'm not going to point fingers, but let's just make one thing clear. Absolutely no one is randomly targeting Sandy Ryan at her hotel before she leaves to go to Madison Square Garden. Like, obviously there is a strategy behind this attack. And I have no idea where it came from. But it's in a circle. Like, it's not just some bloke was just sitting like in Queens and went, oh, you know what, I'm going to go to the hotel and pull up in the car strategically as she falls out, because someone's phoned me from the hotel to let me know she's coming out, jump out of the car, put the hazard lights on, sling paint all over her, and then get back in and speed off. Like, this is a targeted attack. And listen, it's not really, but it is life. Bullshit happens. Like, people are nasty, people are evil. And unfortunately, on the biggest night of her career, they won. And they didn't just win in the ring, they won by putting this champion off her game and making sure it was absolutely impossible to be 100% in that fight. I'll be honest with you, if I was there, I would have probably said, don't fight. But she wanted to fight. And I believe her trainers even said, look, you don't have to fight right now. She's standing on the pavement in New York. She's got paint all over her. She has to go upstairs. She has to get in the shower. She has to scrub the paint off her body, get changed again, and go back to the arena and put her gloves on and wraps on to fight. What, and the reality is, people are scum. People are disgusting, because what they can't have is happiness for anybody. She has worked her whole life to become world champion. She got the opportunity to fight at Madison Square Garden, headline at Madison Square Garden. And people couldn't even let her do her job. Right? So now, and by the way, the fight was tremendous. Amazing. Now, I'm so happy that she gets another bite of the cherry. Las Vegas, headline. And thank you to Top Rank, because, there was no rematch clause. So we took that chance. It was a great opportunity last time, but it wasn't fair. Because there is no way she could have been 100%. So I'm a big believer in karma. And whatever happened that night, God will repay us with what we deserve. And that will be a thrilling fight. And I believe Sandy Ryan will win that championship back. And when she does, it will be sweet. Respect to both. Two tremendous fighters. But something went down that night that is completely wrong and just not fair.
Straight out of pro wrestling. Never seen anything like that before. Speaking, this weekend is a great weekend of boxing. Not only your show on Saturday, there's a Golden Boy show later in the evening on Saturday night, but the Top Rank card here in New York is phenomenal. And Keyshawn Davis is at the top of the bill. And I would love to see Keyshawn versus Andy Cruz, because they have that great history. Is there any chance of this happening? I see him moving up the ranks in the IBF rankings, but I'd love to see that fight. Can we see that this year if he wins?
Keyshawn's a great fighter. He's a great personality as well. He'll beat Barancic handily on Saturday. When you look at the lightweight division, the king of the lightweight division, in my opinion, is Shakur Stevenson, right? The fight with him and Gervonta Davis is one of the great, great fights that has to happen in 2025. He also has to get past Floyd Schofield next week, but all being well, that's the fight we should make. Keyshawn and Shakur will never fight each other. They're very close.
Right.
When I look at the options at 135, tell me a better fight. Tell me a greater narrative. Tell me a better build-up. Tell me a greater fight of history than Keyshawn against Andy Cruz. Because Keyshawn is a competitor. And Keyshawn knows that they boxed 4 times in the amateurs. And Keyshawn could not lace Andy Cruz's boots. Right? Now, everyone says that the amateurs are the amateurs and the pros are granted. Still boxing. That is a brilliant, brilliant fight between 2 tremendous young fighters. And all we've got to do is just keep getting Andy up the rankings, hopefully into a mandatory position for a world title. But I believe, normally you duck Andy Cruz, right? I think Keyshawn's got more about him than that. I think Keyshawn will want to fight Andy Cruz. Because otherwise, Andy Cruz will call Keyshawn Davis his son for the rest of his career.
That was tremendous. By the way, another true or false. Tank Shakur. You really think that happens in 2025? True or false?
Honestly, Ariel, right? Shakur, I was with him last night in London sparring. I love this kid. I think he's one of the greatest fighters of our generation. He's got 28, 3-division world champion already. He's not even got out first gear. Gervonta Davis, amazing fighter. So exciting, big draw. That's the fight. Who else can Gervonta Davis fight? That's for the king. That's for supremacy at 135 pounds. Now you've got Keyshawn Davis in the mix. Now you've got Andy Cruz in the mix. It's an amazing division. But Shakur against Tank is one of the great American fights.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe our man wins wholeheartedly. So, yes, let's get through Floyd Schofield next week. Zepeda in the summer, Tank at the end of the year. That's the year we want for Shakur.
Okay. By the way, your guy, Dmitry Bivol, getting another crack next week against Artur Beterbiev. I see some people saying if Bivol wins, you got to do the trilogy. I say hogwash. We've seen it twice. It was great. I want Benavidez versus the winner of that fight. What do you prefer? If your guy wins.
I mean, look, as long as we get the win, it's going to be a very tough fight again. 2 amazing fighters. And, if Bivol comes through, maybe Canelo steps up at some point and fights him for the undisputed at 175. Benavidez against Bivol, great fight. Benavidez, I like the fact that Benavidez took on Morrell because Morrell's a serious fighter and he has no name value. So that's what I'm saying. It's like Andy Cruz. You have to have the balls to fight these people. You have to make that call. You have to pull the trigger because everyone else will go, why would you fight David Morrell? He's really good, but he's just not a draw. Well, Benavidez did it and he deserves credit and he deserves respect for that. But yeah, huge fight for Bivol. We've got a mad week next week. We've got Bivol against Beterbiev. We've got Madrimov against Virgil Ortiz, which is just an unbelievable fight. We've got Shakur against Floyd Schofield and we've got Callum Smith against Boatsi in an all-British. I mean, it's just like this honestly. I mean, Manchester this Saturday is a great card, great night of boxing. Next week, you've never seen anything like it. And you may never see anything like it again, honestly. Great times for boxing.
Yes.
Boxing's red hot. I saw your comment, Ariel, where you said, right now, when you talk about boxing and MMA, where's the narrative? Where are the big events? Who's talking about what? Boxing's just gone like that.
I got killed for that one, Eddie.
It's true.
But you know what?
And listen, for a long time, the hype has been around MMA, around UFC. And it continues to be, by the way. It's an amazing business, an amazing product. But you cannot deny right now, boxing is hotter. And everybody's talking about it. And we're getting all the big fights, all the big cards. All the promoters are trying harder than ever to try and bridge the gap between themselves and Riyadh season, which is very difficult to do. But it's just an amazing time for boxing.
What was fascinating about that was how many quote unquote old boxing heads were coming. Nah, it was better in the 70s. It was better in the 80s. Lou DiBella, I love you, but why are you so negative about the sport that made you into who you are today? It wasn't MMA fans that were mad at me.
Listen, live in the moment. Let's just Be thankful for what we got. Amazing times.
Yeah. Two last quick ones. By the way, speaking of that amazing time that we're in, you think your friends at TKO are really getting into it? Are they finally going to
Yeah,
do it? You think so?
yeah. Good. Another amazing shot in the arm for boxing.
Hmm. Bring them on, right?
Bring him on.
They're going to get rid of the Ali Act too.
Listen, don't matter. We're up for it. We're in it. We're game for the fight. We're up for working with everybody, and life is good.
And last one, be honest. When they announced, and you probably knew long before, who am I kidding? But when you found out that Frank and company were coming over to the app, right? He slagged you off when you made the deal with DAZN, right? What is it? Some app? No, our fights are on broadcast TV. Did you send him a cheeky text? Did you make come
You
on?
don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to say anything. You just have to know that many years ago we made the move to the app, Dead Zone,
Yes.
that is now the place of global destination for boxing that every promoter in the world is begging to be a part of. And guess who went on there first? Moi. More the merrier, top rank, PBC, whoever. Come on board. This is the ultimate offering for fight fans. And I'm very proud of everything DAZN has done.
Well done. Good luck this weekend. Looking forward to it very much. Good luck next week. Always a pleasure, Eddie. Thank you. We're dubbing this now. They told me on our chat here, I said around the horn. That's an American term. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Around the horn. Are you familiar with this term?
Not particularly. Sounds interesting.
Well, when you say you're going around the horn with someone, it's like you're hitting a bunch of different topics. It's a baseball term.
Okay.
You throw the ball
Well,
around the Hearn.
Ariel,
Around the Hearn.
You're going around the horn with you, old chap.
Around the Hearn.
I love it. See what you did there.
Amazing. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
There he is, Eddie Hearn joining us. Great to have him on as always. Is that not a term over in the UK? Around the horn? No?
Nah.
Okay. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.